Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm one of your hosts, Petter, and with me I got my co-host, Patrick.
Hello, everybody.
And today we're talking about Volume 6 of the Fruits Basket manga. A very exciting volume, just, I gotta say, to kick things off. And usually, or actually every single time that we've talked about the volumes before this sixth one, we always started talking about Toru. But I think there's someone else that deserves to be talked about first for this volume.
Yeah, Kyo is the big focus of this volume.
Definitely. He absolutely is the star of this one. And well deserved. I think it was some really interesting stuff that we learned about him and that we saw from him. I should we start with the obvious one, like the big thing, his true form.
Oh yeah.
Uh which so first of all, just the fact that it's called his true form feels, I mean, obviously I guess there's a lot I don't know since I literally don't know anything past this volume, but I feel like the fact that it's called the true form feels like it feels mean or it feels wrong somehow. Like why is that form more true than his cat form or his human form? Is what I wonder. Like, or do people just call that his true form out of spite? In a sense, uh, those were kind of, I thought, like, had thoughts along those lines. But I'm not, obviously I don't know. Like there might be more to it that explains that it is his actual, like, more natural or true form somehow. But yeah, I guess I can't speculate too much on that. Do you have any
Well,
thoughts on that?
yeah. I think mostly they call it this true form just out of almost tradition because that's
Mm,
kind of how people have like seen the cat member of the Soma family. Like
right.
they just like only see that form as like what encapsulates that individual.
That's rough. And so about that, like, so we had this bracelet or the beads,
Yeah, the prayer beads.
right? Which seemed to have some sort of magical properties that basically kept him from becoming that form or turning into that form. Did I understand that correctly?
To be honest, I don't really know why the beads keep him in that form or keep him
But
away
they
from that
do,
form,
like,
but they
it.
do.
Yeah, they somehow they do.
Yeah.
So I guess we shouldn't question it too much. I mean, this is a story about hot guys turning into animals from the zodiac, so it's already whimsical. So I guess, yeah, it is fantasy. But yeah, I was just curious, like, if I had missed anything, but maybe it's just like, maybe we should just accept it because we saw that the previous cat uh had the same kind of bead necklace or bracelet.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if it was the exact same one or just a one that was made similarly. But regardless, it's like, yeah, it seems like that's a thing.
I'm assuming it was the same one, but I
Right.
mean, it never really says much about it.
Yeah. Because I was a little confused by that. Like, because the first time it was mentioned in relation to his true form in the flashback to his mother when Kyo was a kid. Um, I think I misinterpreted it that time, but the way I understood it then was that it kind of, she gave him the beads to kind of, like, basically with the logic that if he would transform, then the beads would scatter, and that would make it so that she would know if he had transformed or not, like, kind of that kind of thing. Obviously, I think I was wrong on that, uh, because it became very apparent when Kazuma removed it and he immediately Kyo transformed.
Yeah. Um, Although I'm pretty sure, like in the context of this volume, his mother did give him the beads. Not really sure where she came of them, but like, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Did we know if it was his mother or his father that was from the Soma family? Maybe that wasn't clarified.
I don't know if that's clarified. Sure.
Um, if it's his mother, then she could have gotten it from the relatives that knew the previous cat
Yeah.
potentially. So
Yeah.
it could make sense that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. I think the true form. Well, first of all, I don't even know what it looks like. I mean, it looks like a. It kind of looks more like a dragon than Hattori's seahorse does, but
Yeah.
but I don't know. And
I mean,
it's mm,
when it's described by the characters, it's um described as bent, it's not the correct shape like an animal or something should be, and
right.
it's described as smelling rotten.
Yeah, stinky, stinky.
Yeah.
Like so stinky, so you throw up. That's
Yeah.
that. So like, because at first when we heard we saw some flashback to people. We just like heard voices kind of being like kind of describing him and describing the stench and all that. And I guess like my initial thoughts on that was like, oh, they're just exaggerating to be mean. But then obviously later on we saw like even Toru, who we know is a super good person. She would never like make fun of anyone. Um, she actually threw up from the stench of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty awful. And like I just feel like, I mean, obviously I don't know anything about the lore behind this, like why this form is the way it is, why it even exists. I don't know anything about that, but just from a like a narrative standpoint, or like basically from the head of Takaya, like the mangaka who wrote and drew this, I feel like when she created this true form, I feel like she just wanted it to be as repulsive as possible. So
Yeah.
I feel like so like not just with the visuals, but also with that stench and yeah. But it kind of has like cat like eyes still,
Yeah.
which I thought
There's
was
still some similarities to a cat from it, but yeah.
has a head and four limbs like a cat.
Yes, that is a cat and only a cat.
Yep. um, we learned that creature, or well, not that creature, that form, or the cat spirits, or the cat spirit's true form, hates rain, or supposedly, or I
Well,
think someone speculated on that, like that the reason why Kyo doesn't like rainy days is because of the cat spirit's true form, or something along those lines.
yeah, it's related to the cat spirit. I can't quite remember if it was just the true form or just the cat spirit in general.
Right. I mean, I could totally see that being related to specifically the cat form, because I mean,
Yeah.
cats don't like getting wet most of the time.
Yeah.
So I mean, but there could be something related to the true form there as well. I'm not entirely sure. Uh,
Yeah.
so I guess maybe we'll see some more of that later on.
And um I guess the person who reveals his cat form is his master, Kazuma, who is a Soma who isn't a Zodiac member.
Yeah. Do we want to move on to him, talking about him, or is this still related to Kyo?
This is still related to Kyo.
Cool, cool, cool.
Um it seems like he has a somewhat rocky relationship to any of his parent figures. Like, not necessarily a bad relationship with Kazuma especially, but just complicated relationship to where he has trouble seeing people as his parent figure because of how how his prior parent figures and the people around him have treated his parent figures.
Right. Yeah, because like related to his mother. Well, first of all, it's suggested that she committed suicide, which I think goes along the lines of a lot of the other like Zodiac characters having very bad, like, or well, having their parents react very poorly to the fact that they are Zodiac animals. so like I guess having seen Kisa, having seen Momiji, I feel like it makes sense. As tragic as it is, it kind of makes sense with that in mind. But but anyway, sorry. Related to his mother, she would always tell him that she loved him and all that, and she seemed to care in that way. But based on like just looking at her actions and kind of how she treated Kyo as a kid, I feel like it seemed more like she didn't really trust him, and like maybe she even feared him in a sense, even though she didn't admit to that. Although
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's hard to say exactly, but that's kind of the feeling that I got from that, because she kept him at home all the time. She wouldn't let him out. That to me shows that either she is afraid that he would cause harm to someone outside, or she just doesn't trust him enough to do that. So so yeah, the relationship between them couldn't have been as good as maybe she tried to make it seem.
Yeah.
So it's totally understandable for Kyo to be kind of hesitant, I guess, in viewing anyone as a parent parent figure. But I
Yeah.
thought it was really beautiful to kind of learn how he had, like, basically how he thought of Kazuma, and that he had such high respect for him, and he grew to love him like as if though he was a father to him. But he didn't want to like really accept that, because he didn't want to burden Kazuma with
Yeah.
with that idea.
And it kind of sucks that his real father couldn't do that for him.
Right. I forget. Did we learn anything about his real father? I can't remember right now.
I can't remember exactly what we learned, but it's never like said that he died or anything, so I'm assuming he's
Right.
still around.
I think he was just kind of absent, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a great father. So yeah. So I really really felt for Kyo in all of that. But he was so happy, like when his master came to visit the Soma house.
Yeah.
Like Kyo was so happy to see him, and man, just seeing Kyo smile like that when he was
Yeah. It
talking with his master alone, like that was really sweet.
was like, oh hey, Kyo doesn't just have one side of himself.
Right,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, that was really nice to see.
yeah.
Uh, and
And
um and thanks to Toru, when he did transform, and Toru saw it and she ran after him. Um, I think that thanks to her being so open with him and supportive of him, much to his surprise, I imagine. But thanks to that, he was able to open up to her, and kind of show her his weak and sensitive side, which
yeah,
obviously he has never wanted to do before, like to anyone.
yeah. And even in the moment he doesn't really want to do that.
True.
Like he, at first like he actually hurts her and then is
Yeah.
considering hurting her so bad that she'd never want to be with him again.
Yeah, that, and oh my god, that was so sad. That, yeah, boy. Glad he didn't.
Yeah.
Just the scratch that he did, which obviously was just kind of the first step, I guess. But like just that was like I was really surprised that he would hurt her like that. Um, but at the same time, I understand where he's coming from. I understand like his thought process, as sad as that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of interesting things there. I have a little. Do you have anything more related to this, like true form, or like stuff like that?
Not really.
Cool. Because one other thing, like the last thing I took note of Kyofor was that there is. I think it was in the same scene where he and Toru embraced each other, and he transformed back. He had just transformed back into human form, and the sun was coming up, and like that scene, which was really beautiful. First of all, I loved
Yeah.
that. But in that scene, you kind of get to follow along with his thought monologue during that scene, and he's transformed into a cat because they're embracing each other. And as he's just kind of thinking to himself, there's a panel we see of young Toru, which I assume is from uh the situation with the Cap boy. Uh, it looks like Toru was that kind of age, and it just felt like that to me. And so it also seemed like it was from the eyes of the Cap boy, at least based on what I think. And since they showed that as we got to follow along with Kyo's thoughts, that felt to me like a straight up confirmation that he was that boy. Of course, I could be wrong, but this makes me like very sure of that. Like I was pretty sure of that before, but like this makes me even more certain. Uh, but hey, I definitely could be wrong about it.
Yeah.
And I mean that
Yeah.
whole thing, I don't even know what that's going to like. I don't know what the significance of that is at this point, but I'm sure it will become significant. I look forward to seeing what that's going to bring.
Yeah. Um, I guess one other thing relating to Kyo is Akito has seen his true form.
Right, right. And hadn't several others also seen his true form, like hadn't Yuki and Kagura and like others like hadn't or
Yeah,
was that
yeah.
they had seen before, right?
Similarly, but we hadn't like seen them see his true form until now.
Right. Yeah,
But
well, right,
yeah,
exactly. And because Kagura mentions when they're out grocery shopping, I think she asks Kyo if he plans to just hide his true form from Toru forever.
yeah,
Or I don't think she didn't say true form, but based on the context, I feel like that was what she was referring to. Uh, so it's implied at least that she at least knows of it and probably has seen it.
yeah. But
Uh,
I just want to note for future reference that Akito has seen his true form and was absolutely repulsed by it. So
right, which is not surprising, I
yeah,
think, or at least like based on what I've seen of Akito, he seems like the kind of guy who would definitely just kind of shun that.
yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty bad. Yeah, if you want to move on to the next character, I figured since we've been talking about Kyo now, why not talk about Kazuma
Oh
for a
yeah,
bit? Because his story was very related to Kyo's. I mean, yeah, it was entirely related to Kyo's in this
yeah,
volume. Um, First of all, I thought he was a really nice. Like we didn't see too much of him, but I thought he was a really nice character. Uh, for me, he was very easy to kind of like. And what really, like, the part in the volume that got me the most, like that got me the most emotional, was that was basically seeing or learning about his kind of past with Kyo, and we learned that initially he took in Kyo sort of as a form of atonement because he regretted the way he had, like, he and his family had been treating his grandfather, who was the previous cat
yeah,
spirit. So like it just started off as something almost selfish. Well, not selfish entirely, but like just kind of first of all for himself because he wanted to feel better about himself, kind of. But as they spent time together, he grew to actually really love Kyo and to
yeah,
even kind of view him as a son. And just the way that whole thing was delivered was really really powerful to me, and yeah, it kind of choked me up. And especially since we had already seen, I can't remember if it was the same chapter or earlier, like one of the previous chapters, but before that in the volume, we had learned that Kyo viewed Kazuma as a father figure, but he hadn't felt comfortable enough to confess that. And then when we learned that Kazuma felt the same way, that but that he had also kind of hadn't wanted to put that kind of burden on Kyo, uh, like for the kind of the same reasons. Uh, that yeah, that hit hard.
Yeah. It was definitely like a really interesting route to take those characters, like instead of their like relationship being like one dimensional, like oh they love each other, and Kyo like is definitely like, oh hey, you're my dad, that's cool.
Yeah,
It's
right.
definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
lot more
so
interesting.
definitely, yeah, adding that piece of, well, drama sort of was very, very nice. And it makes, yeah, it really gives like that kind of struggle for both of the characters was really nice to see. And at the same time, they sort of have the like a father-son relationship, even though neither of them had exactly admitted to it, I guess. They sort
Yeah.
of already kind of had that relationship anyway, which is really nice. But I think being able to admit it and kind of confess it uh, is a big step as well that needs to be taken, which they sort of did at the end of the volume or close to the end of the volume,
Yeah,
which was really nice to see.
definitely.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, well, yeah, Kazuma, we he's the martial arts master who taught both Kyo and several of the other Soma kids apparently.
Yeah.
So he's a cool guy.
Yeah. He,
But
yeah.
actually, one thing about him that, well, it didn't surprise me exactly because I didn't really know him at the time, but it kind of at least it was interesting. Was that he decided to remove Kyo's beads and basically he entrusted or he trusted Toru to be able to save Kyo in that moment without really knowing Toru at all. Like he had basically just gotten to the Soma house and very quickly he felt like he could trust Toru to do that. I
Well,
guess maybe he had heard of her.
I don't know if it was like a full on trust, but it was like he felt like if she wasn't able to like show some sort of love to Kyo even after seeing his true form, that there is probably no way to save Kyo from his inevitable fate.
Right, yeah. It was like a big gamble.
Yeah.
Um, glad it worked out, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed Kazuma. He was a very very fresh addition to the character cast.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this in the previous volume discussion that I thought, well, I didn't know exactly, and I still don't actually know exactly, but I felt last time like it sort of felt like we had at least one new Zodiac character introduced in every volume up to the previous one, which might be true. I just haven't double checked it, but it might be true. But at least with this one, there wasn't a new Zodiac member, but there was new Zodiac stuff. I mean, there was the true form of
Yeah.
Kyo, so uh, yeah, we still got some stuff with that.
Yeah.
Anything more on Kazuma?
Um I I guess it's worth mentioning that he never believed that Kyo was responsible for his mother's death, even though like
Oh
most
yeah,
people around him did believe he was responsible for it because of his cat and true forms.
right, yeah, and I think that kind of goes to show just how much Kazuma grew since when he was younger he would treat the previous cat very poorly along with like his entire family
Yeah.
and all that. So the fact that he's actually able to understand and kind of sympathize with the next cat shows character growth, I think, for him.
Definitely.
I would honestly probably enjoy like like a prequel series with him as the main character. I would probably enjoy that.
Yeah.
uh, but uh, but yeah, very very nice. And I guess since we are so kind of Kyo focused right now, why not talk about Kagura next?
Oh yeah.
She's also very related to Kyo. And dude, she seriously needs to manage her anger issues.
I mean, don't she and Kyo need to learn to manage their anger issues?
Okay, yeah, you're right. Kyo needs it too. Kyo You're right. It's just like compared to Kyo, she is like way worse, I feel.
Hmm.
Or actually maybe not. Maybe not. It's just those two together, she is worse than him. But when Kyo is like with Yuki, Kyo is basically as bad to Yuki as Kagura is to Kyo.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Yeah, they both need to manage that. um, but there was definitely some interesting stuff with Kagura though this volume I thought, um, because she it's implied that she did something in the past that she's keeping
Yeah.
secret from Kyo. Uh, and she says that the reason why she isn't willing to tell him is because she thinks that he will cry if he learns about it, whatever it is. And sort of, I feel like something that was related to that she sort of was thinking about later in the same chapter, if I recall, um, was that she seems to think that Kyo should have been the one. Well, because previously, sorry for like just talking like in weird ways here. Anyway, like Kyo said earlier in the chapter that she should have kept her distance from him because that's what everyone else does, kind of, and that's how he feels like people should react to him, which is
Yep.
awful, but it's what he's used to. But she doesn't treat him that way, and he tells him that she should keep her distance from him, and she should have always kept her distance from him, even though she never did. But then you see her thoughts later in the volume where she thinks that Kyo should have been the one to keep his distance from her, presumably when they were kids, when they got to know each other. Uh, so I'm thinking there's something in her past that maybe is a little shady, or maybe she regrets it. Maybe she feels regret over something
Yeah.
she did related to Kyo.
Yeah. I think we can definitely say that she feels regret for something related to Kyo.
Mm-mm. That's definitely how it seemed. Um, and so I wonder if her if her persistence to kind of stick with Kyo is related to that, sort of like Kazuma. Kazuma adopted Kyo kind of to make like to atone for his past sins. I wonder if Kagura's reason for sticking with Kyo is sort of similar, or maybe just started similarly. So maybe it's like very similar to Kazuma in that way, possibly, or not, or maybe it was
Yeah.
always maybe she was always very fond of him. I don't
I,
know.
I think she's fond of him, and it's mentioned by somebody. I can't remember if it's I believe it was Toru that she's actually holding back from seeing Kyo every day. Like
That's
she seems to
yeah,
want to.
that's true. Yeah, that was sweet. That was sweet. But at the same time, I feel like she should kind of learn that no means no, unless there's more to this that I don't understand yet. Because just based on what we've seen, of Kagura and Kyo's quote unquote relationship, it feels very one sided. You know, Kyo is like actively like, no, stay away from me. Like, I don't want to go on a date with you, blah, 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 like things like that. But she just keeps, she keeps insisting and she keeps getting her way, sort of.
Yeah, there may be more to that.
Right. I had kind of assumed so, and also really hoped so, because if this is all it is, then I think it's kind of destructive. Like it's like not a healthy thing at all. So yeah, I do think and hope that there is more to it. So I'm excited to see that because I do enjoy Kagura for the most part. I just don't really enjoy her when she becomes like super violent, I guess.
Yeah.
But she's cool, and she's the boar. So for me, being born in the year of the boar, I should feel like a sense of connection there. I guess. If you feel that to Yuki, I don't know.
I don't think I feel that kind of connection with Yuki, but
um, but yeah. And another thing about Kagura is that I think she left the Soma house the night that Kyo transformed into his true form.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know if there was a reason for that. I mean, there probably was a reason for that. Um, maybe maybe she dislikes that form. Like maybe she is completely head over heels for Kyo as a person, but she doesn't like that form. Maybe. That's
Or
really that just kind of popped into my head right now. I don't know.
or maybe she might be jealous of a certain somebody. Getting a little closer to Kyo
Oh,
than
dude, I
she
should have also
expected.
picked up on that. Honestly, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. That makes perfect sense, actually. But hey, why didn't she run after him? She could have totally run after him too. Hmm.
Which is probably why she feels a little bit jealous.
Because she didn't have the strength to do it. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. The plot thickens. Yeah. Ooh. So, maybe there's a little bit like not from Toru's side, but from Kagura's side. Maybe there's a little bit of like bad blood now between those two. I wonder. I wonder because, well, actually, yeah. So, yeah. I think I'm done talking about Kagura. Do you have anything else on
Yeah.
her?
No, but I think we've been skirting around another character who's involved with all of this, so
Yes. Toru.
Toru.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So she seems by now to pretty much definitely have some sort of romantic feelings for both Yuki and Kyo. It seemed like in one of her thought monologues.
At least in this volume it's definitely like shown that she in some way like feels something towards Kyo definitely.
But I feel like yeah, but I feel like it was also I feel like she mentioned both of them. Like she had a thought monologue where she basically said something about that both of them had grown into becoming such great men
Yeah.
and that every time she was around them, blah blah blah, something very lovey-dovey romantic kind of thing. I it seemed at least to me like she had sort of developed those sorts of feelings for both of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Although I
which
don't think
hmm,
she would like consider them romantic feelings herself.
right, yeah, that's yeah, like it's kind of like the making of such feelings, perhaps.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean maybe the feelings are there, but she hasn't recognized them as such feelings, perhaps.
Yeah,
Uh,
but one thing she does recognize them as is that, or at least she feels that they are um selfish in a way. Because when she's like trying to like help Kyo, like telling him that she loves him and that she'll be there for him,
hmm,
she mentions that it's kind of that it's selfish what she's doing, but that Kyo had said before that like sometimes you have to do something selfish. So,
right, that's right. So yeah, maybe she's kind of suppressing those feelings a little bit, or trying to ignore them,
but
perhaps.
I don't know if she's ignoring them, but she doesn't quite understand them yet.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that makes sense. Hmm. Yeah. 'Cause I feel like from the kind of early on, I can't remember if Kagura was introduced in the first or the second volume. Probably the second volume. Um, but basically from that point on, I kind of felt like the obvious ships to make, like as a reader, was to kind of pair Kagura with Kyo, even though that seemed problematic, but like kind of with growth, then maybe they would grow together.
Yeah.
And to pair Toru with Yuki, like that kind of just
Yeah.
felt at the early point like an obvious kind of ship pairing. And I still sort of lean to that at this moment if I'm gonna be shipping. Not that I am too into it, but I have been thinking about it. Um, but learning with this
Yeah.
volume that Toru seems to have romantic feelings, or well, at least some form of it, for both Yuki and Kyo, that makes me a little bit less sure on that.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the interest of Fruits Basket
Uh-huh.
is that like who will she end up with?
Definitely. I mean, absolutely. It's a shoujo manga for like
Yeah.
young teenage girls primarily to kind of be like kind of drool a little bit over, perhaps. Uh, not to say I don't. Uh, anyway, um, yeah, like the from Toru's point of view or standpoint, kind of in the scene where she saved Kyo. That was really awesome to see her doing that. Not surprising in any way, because I feel like it was very much in her character to reach out to him and do what she did for him.
Yeah.
But her honesty and openness with him really helped him to well appreciate her help
Yeah.
in a way that he hadn't done before. Because she was so honest with him. She said that she said that she was a little bit afraid of this form of his, uh, which his mother never said that, and I think that
Yeah.
meant a lot to him. Yeah, yeah, that was like that part where when she helped him and he transformed away from his true form and back into human and all that, like that scene, and also as I mentioned earlier, the one where we learned of Kazuma's backstory and how he viewed Kyo as a son, but didn't want to burden Kyo with that. Like those were the two most impactful moments in this volume for me personally.
Definitely.
But anyway, I have one last thing on Toru, and this is actually not related to the story. This is something that I related to the art. Um, so and something that actually has been on my mind basically since I started reading, but I never brought it up. But I figured I just would because I just have to mention it. Is like why doesn't Takaya uh color uh Toru's hair? Like why does she leave it like white? It looks like she's blonde,
Hmm.
but her hair is actually like dark brown
Yeah.
from what I've understood. Like from the because there are a few colored pages like in the beginning of the volumes.
Yeah.
So I've seen that her hair is supposed to be dark brown, yet it's completely uncolored in the manga, like in the actual chapters. So it looks like I always when I read the chapters, I kind of view her as being blonde, which she really isn't.
Hmm.
So that's just the only really weird thing about the art that I've thought about. This bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, I guess. I guess I just never really considered that because I started with the anime first, so
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Because I feel like she could have made her hair like at least like gray. It doesn't
yeah.
have to be like black, but at least gray to make it so that it doesn't look completely bright. I guess. But whatever. It's an old manga. It's not going to change now just because I said this. But yeah, did you have anything more on Toru?
Other than that, she likes summer
Hmm.
partially because she can work during summer vacation. That's
Yeah.
probably
What a reason for liking summer.
it.
Such a Toru thing to say too.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah. So I guess moving on to Yuki, we learned that he doesn't like summer.
Yeah, for some reason.
Yeah, yeah. But at the end of the volume, or it's close to the end of the volume, maybe it was the last chapter. It probably was the last chapter. He confesses that he wants to make, or actually, maybe it wasn't the last chapter. Anyway,
I
he
think it was
confessed.
the end of the second to last chapter.
I think so as well. He confesses that he wants to make happy memories with Toru and spend more time outside and like this coming summer,
Yeah.
which should be fun, should be nice. And I mean, man, I feel like at this point, the kind of relationship between Yuki and Toru, like, why don't they just kiss already, and like, or like just like start dating properly? Like, I don't know. It feels weird. It feels so obvious that they like each other at this point. Like they say stuff like that together or to each other. Um, like, oh, I want to make happy memories with you this summer. Like, dude, if that's not a love confession, I don't know what is.
Let's just say that love comes in many forms.
Well, okay, that's true. That's fair. Yes. Um, and because like he's just like Yuki is just casually asking Tori out on dates now. Like that's where they're at. Like in the first chapter, I think he just like they're like, let's go on a date, and she's like, sure. Then they went on a date, so we didn't even get to see the dates.
Yeah, I guess that date just wasn't that important.
I guess. Yeah. Um. And yeah, one thing about Yuki, by the way, that I still don't quite understand is why he seems to hate Kyo so much. It's like I know it was established, I think, in the first volume that he is like he has issues where he takes issue with Kyo for the reason that Kyo is so adamant about sort of becoming part of the Zodiac, like proper. When he himself doesn't like being part of that, and that's why he kind of is annoyed with Kyo for wanting to be part of it. But to hate him for that seems a bit too much, I think. So I don't know if there's another reason why, because he, at least in this volume, I think it was at some point mentioned that he seems like he used the word hate
Yeah,
for Kyo. So I don't know.
but to be fair, we're only 6 volumes in a 23 volume series.
Of course. Yeah, I understand. There's plenty to be revealed. So yeah, I'm interested to see that because at this point, just based on what I know, I just don't see how can you hate that kid. I don't see that.
It's it's a complicated relationship, probably.
It's got to be, yeah. Yeah. Um, anything more on Yuki?
I think that's about it.
That's it for Yucky Yuki.
Yep.
Shigure perhaps. Not too much, but um,
Um, he does reveal something about how the Soma family like works, and that the family deposits money into the bank accounts for at least Yuki and Kyo.
that's right. And I honestly I didn't think too much of that when I read it. I just kind of had the feeling that I guess they're kind of high class, kind of a rich family, so I guess they got
Yeah.
money to go around.
Yeah.
But maybe it has more significance than that. I guess we'll see. Um
I just thought it was kind of interesting that they would also like deposit money for Kyo as well.
oh yeah, you're right. Or well, is that so strange?
I don't. It's
I
since
feel
since
like
he's definitely like considered an outsider by even the outsiders of the family.
true, but Shigure lets him live in his house
Yeah, it's yeah,
at least. Even though Shigure's house isn't like part of like the main estate.
yeah,
Uh so yeah. Yeah, I mean he absolutely is an outsider. Was he was invited to the New Year's feast though, wasn't he? I think he was.
yeah.
I think so.
It's a weird thing, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I mean, because I mean, I've heard you like just kind of fanboy hard on this story a lot, like over things that is coming later on, which I know nothing about. But I know how crazy you are about this story, so I'm very excited to get to those parts
Yeah.
eventually. The only note I took on Shigure was that he was successful in tricking Kagura and Kyo to get out of his house, which was pretty funny, I think.
You've already punched a hole through my door.
Yeah.
Go on a date. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh, I feel so sorry for Shigure whenever that happens. They're just wrecking his house. Yeah.
And talk about Yuki. We're introduced to his brother Ayame's shop.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Let's talk about Ayame for a little bit. He was overjoyed to see Yuki visit him, or to have Yuki visit him at his shop. Uh, but I don't think he was like very good at like basically like he's very eager to kind of mend their brotherly relationship. I feel
Yeah.
like he definitely wants that, but he's not good at it. Like he sucks at that shit.
Yeah.
Uh
But Yuki and him do get to talk a bit, just alone.
yeah, that was nice. Although I wished it would have lasted a bit longer, honestly.
Yeah. But hey, we get to see Toro in a cute outfit.
Yeah, we did. Kyo seemed to really like that.
Or
Oh wait, not Kyo. I meant Yuki. Sorry, Yuki.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Yuki seemed to really like that.
Uh,
But yeah, I mean, she was cute. And Mine was a nice character to meet.
yeah,
Well, I was actually like just reading in text. I was a little like just confused at first because I think the first time her name is mentioned, it's just in one single speech bubble and it just says her name. So obviously, I just read it as mine. So I'm like,
yeah,
wait a minute, like, but yeah, then I understood. Ah, it's a Japanese name. Eh. But yeah, like that, we don't know too much about her. Other than I feel like she's a pretty good match for Ayame, probably.
yeah. Probably.
They seem to enjoy the same kinds of things.
Yeah,
Yeah. Was this the first volume where neither Arisa or Saki appeared?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. And Hattori was there very briefly. I think when Ayame was so like excited to have Yuki
Yeah,
come over for visit, he called everybody.
yeah.
And Hattori just didn't care.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I don't think there's any other character really to talk about unless you had anything.
I mean, Hatsuharu was in the volume, but he just like
True.
talked to Yuki and mentioned how Toro was concerned about how he seemed depressed. But
Right. Yeah, which right, that's true. Toru perceived that, or yeah, kind of felt like Yuki seemed to be depressed. And I maybe he was, but I feel like he was more it was more like him just kind of thinking about how to kind of what to do with his feelings,
yeah,
maybe. More something along those lines, which I think obviously can come off as something along the lines of depression, like if you're just kind of quiet and in your own head,
yeah,
kind of. Um, at least I mean I don't know. Maybe he was actually depressed. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know. He seemed to be doing fine in the last chapter with Toru at least.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess it's about that point to ask you if you have any more theories beyond what you've already speculated.
Right. So I probably have one thing, and it's not. I don't know. So about Kyo's true form, I was thinking like, what's the reason for the existence of that? Uh, because as far as we know, none of the other zodiac spirits have a quote unquote true form. Mm, and so I was thinking like, why would that be a thing? And something that he mentioned, I think, in his head when he was thinking, and when he was transforming back. I think it was in that scene anyway. He said something about like, I can't remember how it was put, but it was something where he mentioned like his bad thoughts, and or like his not like kind of ugly side of his feelings or something. So that got me thinking that what if the true form kind of is a kind of embodiment of kind of those kind of ugly feelings and kind of an envy sort of that he holds toward the rat spirit. Uh, if that's possible, I mean, although obviously this is pure speculation, I don't know. I don't really have anything to other than that to really base it on, and I don't know why feelings like that would result in a for like in an additional form like that. But that did at least pop into my head. Um,
Hmm.
so I think it's either that, or it's like closely related to the fact that the cat missed out on the ceremony, like sort of as a punishment of sort.
Yeah, that could be it.
Is like was another thought, since as far as we know, the cat was the only one that didn't make it to that ceremony, whatever it was. Can't remember what it was actually, but yeah, whatever it was. Um,
Yeah.
because it seemed like there were only those 13 animals involved in the story. There weren't any
Yeah.
other animals. And out of those, obviously, all of the other 12 made it. So the cat was the only one that didn't. And maybe from that god or whatever that was hosting them, he felt like, oh, I need to punish you for not coming to my party. So here's your true form or something like that. I think it's either that or the kind of embodiment of envy or the kind of ugly feelings like that. Maybe.
Yeah.
But that's I guess that's all I got on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any closing words, closing thoughts?
I guess I'm gonna kind of not really spoil the anime, but um,
Hmm?
I I think it's really interesting where this part takes place in the manga compared to both of the anime adaptations.
Ah. Oh, both of them.
Wherein, yep, uh, um, so this like Kyo thing is basically the climax of the first of the original anime adaptation, and it's also the
Right.
climax of the first season of the new adaptation.
Okay, I see. Right, yeah, because I did read, it said in this volume, it said that it was sort of like the ending part of the original adaptation. But I didn't know it was
Yeah,
also it had been pushed up that late in the other adaptation too. That's interesting.
yeah. So this is like the first like big part where like the there are major differences between the manga and the anime, or at least the new anime.
I
But
see. Yeah.
like, it's not so much the events that happen, but just how in what like in like what order the events happen.
Right. I
So
see. I see. Do you think, obviously without spoiling anything, but do you think the order affects the story like in a bad or a good way? Like do you have a preference for where this takes should take place in your opinion?
I mean, I think it's fine how it is in the anime, but like it's gonna be interesting to see how like it affects the pacing of the manga with it being so soon.
Gotcha. Because the way I felt about this was that I enjoyed having this at this point because I mean not to say I hadn't been enjoying the series because I absolutely have, But I think doing something this kind of bold, kind of like major, as early as the sixth volume, or
Yeah.
well, actually, sixth volume is actually relatively far in compared to some mangas, uh, but but yeah, like anyway, I think putting it at the, I guess, earlier part, even though this is the original, so it's just where it is, but putting it there, uh, obviously I don't know what's coming, but it's nice, I think, to have that knowledge, that piece of knowledge, perhaps, uh, going forward, maybe.
Yeah. It definitely kind of changes some perspective.
Surely, yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm excited. Like once we have read past the point where the first season of the new anime goes, obviously I'll let you tell me when that is. Once we get there, I'm excited to watch the first season and just also kind of see what the few little differences are and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Should be fun. Yeah.
And I'll have
So
to be
I.
careful with when I tell you because since the events are kind of moving around, I'll have to make sure that we've gone through all those events. So you might see some of the second season within that, but
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. Yeah, I think there's been stuff like that with the Kaguya-sama Love is War manga and like in the anime adaptation of that manga as well. Things
yeah,
going a bit out of order, so it's probably kind of common, at least in these sorts of stories. But yeah.
yeah,
So I guess that's it for the discussion of the sixth volume of Fruits Basket. I loved it. I think this volume I would put at an 8 out of 10. I think the series as a whole is probably still a 7 out of 10 for me, but this volume was an 8 out of 10, and I think it's absolutely possible for the whole series as a whole to get up there eventually. But yeah, would you want to rate the volume?
oof. Let's just say this is probably a like originally like when I saw this in the anime, I probably would have given it like a 10 out of 10. But like
Nice.
after what comes like afterwards in the anime, at least this kind of falls down to an 8 out of 10.
Oh,
So
oh, okay, nice. Interesting. All right, yeah, dude, yeah, that just makes me even more excited. So yeah, well, thank you to anyone who listened to this. If you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and if you like this episode, please share it around with anyone you think might enjoy it as well. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time, where we'll talk about Volume 7. Bye bye!
see y'all later.